Hey guys, I am back with another DIY video. This week I'm transforming this maxi skirt into a beautiful co-ord for my little sister. Making this skirt was super simple. All I needed to do was measure how long my sister wanted the skirt to be, mark that on my fabric, and cut across. The last piece in this puzzle was to hem the skirt, and voila, it is done. So the measurements you need for this cami top: first of all, your bust. Second of all, the length of the top you're going to make. Third of all, you're going to need to know your bust width. And lastly, not pictured here, is the length of the straps. So now moving on to the top, first of all, I cut the remaining fabric into two pieces. Choose one of these two pieces as your front panel and then fold it in half. Measure the length of your top on the fold, approximately 10 centimeters down. Measure a quarter of your bust plus 1 centimeter for seam allowance. Then from the first mark you made, horizontally measure half your bust width plus 1 centimeter seam allowance. Now join all of these lines together using diagonal lines and a diagonal line from the armpit to the hem. Cut this out, and that is the front of your top. Using the remaining piece of fabric, fold it in half and lay on top of it your front panel. Using this as a guide, trace around it and eliminate approximately 5 centimeters from the top of your cami. Cut this shape out, and there you have your back panel. I ended up with two back pieces because there was a center back seam in my skirt, but ideally you'd like one. So if, like me, you do have a center back seam, make sure you sew these two panels up at the center back. With limited fabric to work with, I made a facing for both the front and back panels. To do this, I traced approximately 6 centimeters from the top edge of both of my panels and cut this out. I overlocked the bottom edge of each piece. A facing basically acts as a mini lining, so place this facing right sides together on each of your pattern pieces, both the front and back, but don't sew it just yet. I actually needed some extra fabric to make straps, so I cut off about 6 centimeters from the bottom of the front panel and folded this in half to create a strap. I then used my inside out tool to turn it right side out and pressed it to create a strap. I cut it in half to make 2 straps because I didn't have any other fabric. I then slotted the straps in between the facing and the front panel, as you can see, in approximately the right place. I did try this on before I sewed it up, but the next step is to sew it up. I reinforced the sections where the straps were just by backstitching a couple times to make sure these didn't come loose or fall out. An important step which is often missed is trimming your seams. By trimming your seams, you take out any excess bulk inside the seams and it makes your garment lie flatter. Once you've done this, flip your garment inside out and press your seam with an iron towards the facing. You're then going to stitch your seam to the facing with something called an understitch, and again this helps your garment to lie flat. Taking your back panel, pin your back facing to the back panel, but leave gaps where the straps are going to be inserted inside the facing. It's clearer to see here. As you can see, I've already sewn on the facing for the back panel, but I've left gaps where the straps need to be inserted, and I'm going to pin them in place so that I can try on the garment and check that this is exactly how I want it to be. Once I'm happy with it, I'll pin it underneath in the seam so that I can sew it up properly. Don't forget to backstitch, to trim your seam, and then finally to press an understitch. You're now ready to sew up the side seams, so starting from the facing, pin all the way down and stitch both side seams up. Once you've done this, hem both the skirt if you haven't already and hem your top, and you're done. You have your new co-ord. I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY, and I hope even more that you guys will try it. My sister loves her new cord and she actually wore it the other day. If you do give it a try, make sure you tag me on Instagram at Asikara by Laura Jane and use the hashtag AsikaraDIY. See you soon!